Hey there, my diecast family. How's everybody doing today? All right, what do we got here today? Well, we got a real special treat that I wanted to show off to you. My original plan was, once again, I wanted to do an unboxing. I have yet to do a successful unboxing of a vehicle this size because there's always a problem. You know, either they're overpacked, they're full of tape, they're held in with wire ties, any number of crazy things that are just going to cause a problem. Okay. Now, my wife said, why don't you just unbox it, make it nice and neat, and then put it back in? And I told her, I said, then that ruins the authenticity of it, of the actual unboxing process. You remember when I showed you the Plymouth Sport Furies, we did that as an actual, true, genuine, authentic unboxing. And I wanted to do that with this one too, but like I said, ran into a lot of problems. You know, you pull these cars out of here, they got all this sticky tape, kind of plasticky stuff on them, and there's residue on the body. And then to add insult to injury, you see this little ducktail spoiler back here? Well, on the other side, that spoiler came off as I was taking it out of the package. Why? Because the Greenlight people at the factory didn't put enough glue on it. So I had to glue it back on and let it set up a few minutes before I attempted to even shoot the video, okay? So, like I said, once again, I wanted to do a nice unboxing with this, but that didn't work out, all right? So now we're just going to get into it and have a nice showcase video, all right? So what we have here, let me put this extra light on, is a beautiful Greenlight casting, as I mentioned. It's a 1978 Camaro Rallye Sport. Now, I was looking to add a second generation F-body to my 1/18 scale collection. And I knew I wanted it to be a Camaro since I already had a Firebird in the third generation. So I had almost settled on buying a Greenlight. It was like a dark blue, almost like a navy blue Camaro Z28 with a white interior. It was a really nice looking car, about a 1980 model, all right? And I was just about to pull the trigger on that, and then all of a sudden this popped up in the eBay recommended. And I said, wow, that's really sharp, okay? And there was a 1979 version that was like a silver with the black trim and then the black interior. Well, I, of course, like this one way better. You can see for obvious reasons. This is just a stunning color combination. Well, the initial eBay seller that they showed me was asking ridiculous money for it. So I went in search of someone who was selling it for reasonable money, and I got it. And also I got a discount from the guy too, so that was a plus. All right, so now we've got that stuff out of the way. And yes, I'm putting on these little white gloves. You may have seen them in one of my shorts videos I shot. These came with, believe it or not, an artificial Christmas tree that I assembled for my wife and I for Christmas. I put the tree up early because I don't know if you knew this or not. In the Philippines culture, they celebrate Christmas starting in September. They stretch it out for 4 months. So as part of my wife's birthday, as my gift to her, she asked me would I put the tree up early. So I did. And it came with these gloves. I didn't need to use these because my hands are so callous from manual labor. I didn't need to use the gloves. Then I thought to myself, you know, those gloves would be very useful for when I'm doing like large scale die casts on my channel. So we're going to use them today to showcase this model. All right. So the only thing though is I have to take the glove off to change the camera aspect ratio. So let's just do kind of an overall look at this first. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous model, as you can see. All right. Let's talk about the Rallye Sport for a moment. All right. So you may remember in 1975, Chevrolet discontinued the Z28 model after the 1974 model year, and they made the Rallye Sport to replace it. Well, they realized by 1977 they'd made a mistake and they wanted to bring the Z28 back, and they did. But they kept the Rallye Sport. And the reason why is, if you think about it, Chevrolet had every corner of the Camaro market covered. You had the base Camaro that was budget-minded. Then you had the Type LT, that was the kind of luxuriously appointed Camaro. The Rallye Sport was kind of like the split the difference Camaro. It combined features from both the LT and the Z28, okay? Because you'll notice it's got a nicely, richly appointed interior like an LT, but it's got some sporty features like the Z28, such as a 4-speed transmission. You got the higher performing V8, well, what counted for high performance back then. But you'll also notice that even though it has the ducktail spoiler that the Z28 has, it does not have the extra nose air dam or the little extra wheel well air dams, or spoilers, I guess you would call them, in the wheel well area. Okay, so that's kind of what you would consider the Rallye Sport. It kind of split the difference between the LT and the Z28. And then, of course, the Z28 catered to all-out performance, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this aspect ratio in a little closer, and we're going to start taking a look at some of these nice details, all right? Let's start under the hood, all right? So this would be a 350 4-barrel. I am trying to remember what the 3-digit code was that they used in this engine. You know how you had LS6 for the Chevelle 454. There was an LT1. You had all those. See, I don't remember what this one was called. I want to say LB9, but I could be wrong about that. But anyways, this was only rated at like 170 horsepower. But in a lightweight Camaro and with the torque it generated, it would scoot pretty good. It was a decent performer for its day. And of course, modifications were easily made, okay? So if we look under here, we see a lot of nice details. So in addition to what is a very authentic and accurate air cleaner snorkel, we can also see we got our, I believe this is our coolant overflow tank right here. Because I remember the washer jar was somewhere always up around here someplace. Because the coolant overflow is always adjacent to your radiator. And then back here you got your power brake booster and master cylinder. We got an upper radiator hose. We got a pretty decent fan shroud. And then even though they're impossible to read, you can see we have an emissions label. And also, this would be the vacuum hose routing label, which, by the way, you should know, if you've looked under the hood of a real one of these, you know that they're like a nightmare snake's nest of vacuum hoses, okay? And then we got the very attractive blackout grille. With now, this one's got chrome headlamp bezels. The Z28 had blackout headlamp bezels. Greenlight depicted this with very nice jewel-like turn signal / parking lamps. Got your Camaro insignia right there. By the way, did you know Camaro was an Italian word that stood for companion? That's kind of perfect for this car, right? Isn't that what the Camaro was? It was your companion in performance driving. That's right. And then let's button this up real quick here, right? So yeah, all the Rallye Sports always came in this very snazzy two-tone color scheme. The black was always a given, okay? It was very sporty. And then this color here could be pretty much anything. I mean, here you see the sky blue. I mentioned that there was a silver version from 1979. I've seen white. I've seen a brilliant red metallic. I've seen a lot of different color schemes for the Rallye Sport, and they're all striking, eye-catching colors. This one here, to me, is just absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at these wheels. Now, you might recognize these wheels. If you had a Nova in the 70s, you probably recognize those wheels because those were an optional wheel on the Nova. Camaro also used them as well. Okay, they were very popular. They came with trim rings and a center cap, and they usually came, they could come one of two ways, either with the argent silver or the body color that you see here. You can see we have the little Rallye Sport Camaro emblem on the side there. The must-have sport mirrors when a car like this. And then in here, as I mentioned, you saw it has a 4-speed transmission. You see the shifter in there. That 4-spoke steering wheel was very popular. I think there was even versions of even the Vega that had that wheel because that was a very popular wheel. I remember seeing that in certain versions of, besides Camaro, it was in Nova. Certain versions of the Nova had that wheel. I think I remember seeing a Chevelle Laguna one time that had that same wheel. So yeah, it was a very popular style steering wheel. And you got the little gauges in there with little needles on them, which is cool to see. Air conditioning vent registers, all that good stuff. And then I was checking out these seats. They have like a soft touch to them, which is kind of cool. And they move, but they're not a genuine retractable seat. So they don't retract, but they just kind of flop around because, like I said, they're a soft touch seat. Okay, that's kind of very nice in there. We'll close that door up there. And we'll take it around here to the passenger side. I'm trying to be careful not to disturb the piece I just glued here. Here's our passenger side there. See more vent registers, a Camaro insignia there on the dash, the radio, even better shot of that 4-speed stick, which to my eyes looks like it's sticking up a little taller than it should. So that's probably a boo-boo on their part, but either way, it does stand out, doesn't it? And yeah, this really beautiful bright blue interior. Man, I love that. I think in the Rallye Sport, they came in a combination cloth and vinyl, if I remember correctly. And then there was also all vinyl as an option. There you go. I like the pinstripe too. Isn't that a cool feature as well? And then in the trunk, we've got, look at that. It's a compact spare. That's right. In the late 70s, compact spares began making a appearance. You'll notice it's got the jack usage and stowage label up there on the inside of the trunk. That's also very cool. So this is a very detailed model. And then just like on the Z28, you've got the kind of international style tail lamps where you got an amber turn signal, red brake and tail lights, and then of course your white backup lamps. And then your fuel door was behind this little insignia here. Really nicely done. I like how they did this, even with the donut spare. And then when you close the trunk up, which by the way is kind of stiff, believe it or not, you'll see we got a little Rallye Sport insignia there as well. So that way, as you're leaving people in the dust, they know, hey, I just got dusted by a Rallye Sport. Very nice, huh? All right, now it's going to flip it over here very carefully. Take a look at the chassis here. And wow, this is really well done. Okay, so we got our control arms here, stabilizer bar, steering linkage, all that good stuff. This is a very accurate representation of the catalytic converter. That's one of those pellet styles I remember telling you about in a prior video. Okay, now this has a Z28 style exhaust too. You'll notice the mufflers are very small and low resistance. That's exactly what the Z28 had. And unfortunately, yeah, Chevy did this. They had it squeezing through one converter and then it would branch off into two mufflers. So from the rear, you can see you had the effect of dual exhaust, but it wasn't a true dual exhaust. And that was, of course, you know, emissions driven and all that kind of nonsense. And the Camaro, as you know, was a subframe car. The subframe carried the engine and front suspension. It was attached directly to the body. And then you had a rear subframe that carried your rear suspension, your differential, and all that stuff. And not a particularly large fuel tank. They were kind of limited on the space under there. But 1978 was also the first year that Camaro went to the all urethane style bumpers, front and rear. You remember in 1977, they were still using the chrome bumper with those small tail lamps. And then this back panel was usually either painted or may also have been a stainless steel trim. Then in the front, you can see we got the all urethane nose. The bumper bar is all incorporated underneath this. They did a really nice job. Actually, when they went to the all urethane nose, the second generation Camaro got really, really attractive. It really did. I like how they gave it the canted headlamp bezels and that leaning back grille. It just kind of gave it that aggressive look of speed. It was really cool. But yeah, isn't that just a beautiful Camaro, guys? I really like that. It was so distinctive. It was so different from the Z28, you know. And like I said, it really does, the Rallye Sport really does combine the best of both worlds of the Type LT and the Z28. It really is like a perfect amalgam of both those models. You know, so yeah, Chevrolet really did have a comprehensive Camaro lineup in the 1970s. Now, if you remember, the Type LT got replaced in 1979 by the Berlinetta, it was called. That was the new Camaro model that debuted that year that replaced the Type LT. They hung on to the Rallye Sport one more year. I don't remember if they kept it into 1980. The Rallye Sport was one of those models that kind of came and went, because you may remember the Camaro RS came back again in the third generation body style at some point. So yeah, the Rallye Sport was one of those names that kind of came and went in the Camaro lineup. And the Z28 made that brief departure, and then it came back, and then it stayed back pretty much until the model ended again in 2002, and then they ended up bringing it back in 2010. So yeah, after an 8-year hiatus, the whole entire Camaro lineup came back. But there you have it, my diecast fans. I really hope you enjoyed that. I know you F-body guys are really going to love this, and I just absolutely was thrilled to add this to my collection. When I took this out of the box yesterday, even my wife was like, wow, honey, that's a really nice color scheme. And I said, I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's just such a sharp, striking combination. Plus, it'll help out with my some of my colors up there tend to gravitate towards the dark colors anyway. So this will be nice to have the nice bright color to add to the collection up there. All right. So just once again, before I close out, just want to give a shout out to all you subscribers, all my fans out there. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for all your support. You may have noticed I'm experimenting with the shorts a little bit. I've noticed that when I make those, they're very hit or miss. Sometimes I get a whole bunch of views. Other times I get a few hundred views. So I'm like, okay, I guess that one wasn't the hit that I was hoping it was going to be. But yeah, that's something I'm kind of experimenting with here and there. You'll see a few of those now and again. And, believe it or not, I find that the shorts are harder to do than the long form videos because, there's all those options you can pick, with the shorts to dress them up a little bit. But anyways, that's just, like I said, that's just something I'm doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I want you all to take care of yourselves. God bless you. And we'll see you in the next video.